Absolutely. So we conducted the CRC-PREVENT clinical trial, which served as our pivotal study to support the pre-market approval application for the FDA. They considered a cohort of average risk participants, which is a subset of that cohort. And they leveraged that data to ascertain the sensitivity and specificity of the ColoSense assay. And so what they reported in their kind of findings was that we had a 93% sensitivity for colorectal cancer. We had a 45% sensitivity for advanced adenomas. And then they reported 88% specificity for no findings on a colonoscopy. Yeah, I think when you look at kind of the USPSTF most recent recommendations, they state that there's a knowledge gap in terms of understanding how non-invasive tests play a role in colorectal cancer screening. This study was really the first to query individuals between the ages of 45 and 49. In total, across all patients, we had over 2,000 individuals that we queried in that 45 to 49 patient population with 5 cancers and 103 advanced adenomas. And what we demonstrated is that we maintained sensitivity for both colorectal cancer and advanced adenomas in that patient population. And we demonstrated again that there's really high or relatively higher incidence of disease in that cohort when you kind of look at the incidence today relative to what it was, 10, 15, 20 years ago. So I think both the combination of identifying a higher incidence of disease and then reporting on the sensitivity for the ColoSense assay was really important for this study. Yeah, so the first step, obviously, in terms of getting this into the hands of patients and providers was FDA approval. I think that was a massive milestone to demonstrate safety and efficacy of the device. The next big steps for us are to be getting into the guidelines. CMS has participated in some of the conversations that we've had with the FDA. So they're currently aware of kind of where we are and are actively considering kind of our ColoSense test for inclusion in their guidelines. And then we've also reached out to a number of other important players to see if they can review our data either at their regular cadence or potentially have an early consideration of review of our data to include in the guidelines. Yeah, I think, when you kind of look at the colorectal cancer screening non-invasive test landscape, we're the first test to be approved in a decade. We're the first test to be approved that leverages RNA biomarkers, which, as mentioned, kind of have that maintenance of sensitivity as you go into younger patient populations, which can be a problem with methylation-based assays. So I think that, physicians, patients, providers, payers are not only excited to start seeing novel, innovative tests that are approved by the FDA and integrated in the guidelines, but they're excited to kind of leverage our test in ways that they think that can be helpful to patients and the healthcare system. Yes, so we actually will be publishing a manuscript on the analytical validation of ColoSense shortly. That was accepted as a peer-reviewed manuscript. We'll be presenting data for kind of our ColoSense 2.0 assay at DDW next week. We also have some economic modeling that we're doing with some of our KOLs to understand how our tests can be integrated effectively into the healthcare system from a cost effectiveness standpoint. And then we're also thinking about publishing on how we leveraged our kind of decentralized recruitment model to more effectively evaluate our test within the intended use population during our pivotal study. So we have a number of different publications that are hopefully going to be supporting kind of the safety efficacy of ColoSense and the future products that will be built on this kind of RNA-based platform. Yeah, we've been actively working with, various partners, academic centers, pharmaceutical companies, to see how we can leverage this technology in novel ways. One of the biggest ones that I see as a potential is looking at patients that are not average risk. We have patients that have Lynch syndrome or other predisposing germline conditions. We have patients that have IBD or Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, or other high-risk conditions that not only increase the incidence of CRC, but cause CRC to occur earlier in kind of their lives. And so we're actively pursuing research to understand how ColoSense can play an important role in either screening or monitoring or designating treatment for patients with high-risk conditions.